Okay, so imagine for a second that a bank's new AI system denies a small business loan.
Right. Happens all the time now.
Exactly. And it happens in like milliseconds. It is perfectly efficient. I mean, flawlessly calculated based on all the data it was fed.
Sure.
But then a month later, when that business owner sues the bank for algorithmic discrimination, well, the AI cannot sit on the witness stand.
No, it definitely can't.
Right. The server rat cannot raise its right hand and swear to tell the truth. You do.
Yeah, it's a really jarring image. But, it gets right to the heart of what's actually changing in the modern workplace.
Yeah.
It's not just about what tasks a machine can do. It's about who is left holding the bag when the machine actually does them.
Totally. And today we are doing a deep dive into why your future job description might just be algorithmic liability sponge.
I love that phrase. It's so accurate.
It really is. But before we get too deep into it, we should probably clarify the exact position of the research we're unpacking today.
Yes, that is crucial here.
Because, just to be clear to everyone listening, this is not your typical, run-of-the-mill forecast claiming that AI is going to eliminate exactly 32% of jobs.
Right.
Or that one massive uniform transformation has already finished sweeping across every single company on Earth.
Yeah, that kind of empirical certainty is usually a massive red flag anyway.
Exactly.
What we are exploring today is actually a structural hypothesis. It's a framework for understanding what might emerge when the fundamental elements of work, soft Go, processing, judgment, explanation, responsibility, and authority are suddenly redistributed.
Right, redistributed between humans and machines.
Exactly.
So our goal here isn't to declare that some great shift is already totally complete. It's to define the coordinates that will allow you to actually observe this shift happening in real time inside your own company.
Yeah, because the sources we're using, they use this very specific phrase. They talk about beginning to shift the center of the firm.
Right.
And just to be clear, that doesn't mean the center has officially relocated everywhere. It means the design conditions that are capable of producing that shift, well, they're now actively entering organizational workflows.
Yes. It's all about building a model for comparison because, let's be real, we constantly hear that same entry-level question, right?
How much work will AI remove?
Exactly. Everyone asks that. But if we only count jobs and discrete tasks, we risk missing a much deeper, almost invisible redistribution of power inside the firm.
A structural redistribution.
Right. So to really see that hidden architecture, we're going to trace 4 central issues today. First, we have to look at the crucial distinction between executing work and controlling work.
That one is massive.
Oh, totally. Second, we have to look at how companies are fundamentally shifting from designing systems around people to positioning people around computational pathways.
Which completely changes the org chart.
Right. Third, we have to confront the reality of the work that absolutely cannot be attributed to an algorithm.
The messy stuff.
The very messy stuff. And finally, number 4, we have to figure out if all this new human boundary work is going to become a formal organizational function or if it's just going to be absorbed as invisible compensation work.
Well, if we want to trace all those shifts, I think we have to start by completely redefining a core concept. We need to ask, what actually is the center of a firm?
Yeah, see, my instinct on this, and honestly, I think the instinct for anyone who has ever worked in any corporate environment, is to assume the center is just wherever the most sweat is happening.
Right, the factory floor, essentially.
Yeah, like it's the department doing the highest volume of daily labor, the division with the biggest headcount, the people actually making the widgets or writing the code.
Which is a very, very industrial age way of looking at it.
Totally.
But the source provides a really sharp operational distinction to break us out of that old mindset. We need to divide work into 2 totally distinct areas, the execution plane and the control plane.
Okay, so break those down for me.
So the execution plane is exactly what you just described. It's where the daily processing occurs. It's the routine actions, the repetitive tasks, basically the sheer volume of the firm's output.
Okay, let me try to map this onto something a bit more tangible for everyone. Let's use driving as an analogy.
Okay, I like it. Let's hear it.
So if I'm driving a car, the execution plane is like the engine, the transmission, the wheels turning on the pavement.
Right, the mechanics of it.
Yeah, it's doing all the heavy lifting to get me down the highway. But the control plane, I guess that would be the GPS system on my dashboard.
I see where you're going, but let's push that a little further. How exactly does the GPS act as the control plane in this scenario?
Well, the engine is doing the actual physical work, right?
Yeah.
But the GPS dictates the route. It sets the parameters for the whole trip.
Oh, okay.
Like, it decides when we need to reroute because of traffic. It tells me the speed limit.
Yep.
So the execution plane just blindly pushes forward. But the control plane, the GPS, establishes the actual conditions of the journey.
Right, right.
And think about it. If the GPS directs me into a lake, well, the engine didn't fail its execution. It did exactly what it was told.
The control parameters failed.
Exactly. But as the driver, I'm the one who ends up getting wet. So the central question isn't just who is doing the physical driving, it's who can actually change the rules under which the driving operates.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it, actually, because the control plane is exactly where the conditions for exceptions, stopping, correction, and recovery are rewritten.
Right.
So apply this directly to AI entering an organization. If an AI handles, say, 90% of the routine data processing, so the engine doing the miles,
Right.
but human workers retain the authority to define the scope of that work or decide when to stop it and determine how to correct it, then the center of the firm hasn't actually shifted.
Because the control plane is still entirely human.
Exactly. The human is still holding the GPS.
But the threshold is crossed when that dynamic flips, right? Like, what if I'm the one doing the physical tasks, but the AI is the GPS?
Then the shift has occurred. Think of a warehouse worker.
Okay.
The human is still sweating, still moving boxes, performing a huge volume of physical tasks. But an external AI platform is now defining the operating conditions.
Oh, wow.
Right. It dictates the pace. It sets the parameters for what is considered an error. It decides when a human exception is flagged.
So even though the human is doing the intense physical labor, the control plane has already moved over to the machine.
Exactly. So just to restate the core thesis here, so we're all on the same page. The center is not necessarily where the most work happens. It is where the conditions of the work can be changed.
Man, that completely upends how we measure influence in a company.
It really does.
Because, I mean, if the machine is now dictating the schedule and the parameters, how do we even build a team around that? You can't just hire a person and hand them a laptop anymore and say, go do your job.
You can't. And you're hitting on the second massive shift we need to talk about. It's a total reversal in organizational design. Think about the traditional sequence of white-collar work. If a company wanted to accomplish a goal 10 years ago, what was step one?
Oh, you hire a person, obviously.
Right.
You write up a job description, you bring someone in, you assign them a specific role in a department, you distribute tasks among the team, and then honestly, usually as a total afterthought, you go buy some software or IT systems to help that person do their job.
Yes. The human was the absolute core unit of the design.
Yeah.
The technology was just an accessory,
Exactly.
a tool.
Well, the sources outline a radically new design logic that is emerging through AI workflow integration.
Okay, so what is step one now?
Step one is no longer hire a person. Step one is define the required input.
Oh, wow.
Step two, design the computational processing pathway. Step three, determine exactly what parts of that pathway can run automatically.
Just entirely machine-driven.
Right. Step four, define the mathematical thresholds for exceptions. Step five, locate where human review points actually need to be inserted into that code.
Wait, so the human is just a step 5 insertion, basically.
Hmm.
Because, finally, step 6,
Yeah.
you position people around that resulting computational pathway.
I have to admit that sounds incredibly bleak.
It does. It's a tough pill to swallow.
I mean, it implies humans are just becoming like organic patches for the parts of the code that don't quite work yet. Aren't we just talking about a digital assembly line here?
It feels that way, yeah.
It feels like we're back in the 1920s. But instead of tightening physical bolts on a Model T conveyor belt, I'm, tightening data points on a digital conveyor belt.
That's a very common reaction. And look, it's a totally valid fear. But the comparison to a 1920s physical assembly line actually misses a really crucial nuance about what we are building right now.
Okay, what am I missing?
Well, we have to remember the condition we set at the very beginning of this deep dive. This isn't a completed reality everywhere.
Right, it's a structural hypothesis.
Yes, it is a conditional reality. When this new design sequence expands, that is when the organizational center begins to shift. And the reason it's fundamentally different from a physical assembly line is the nature of the asset itself. We aren't dealing with physical machinery anymore. We are dealing with what the source calls computational capital.
Okay, let's break that term down because honestly, computational capital sounds like some serious corporate jargon.
It does sound a bit academic, yeah.
What makes computational capital fundamentally different from traditional capital, like buying a fleet of delivery trucks or a massive factory press?
Well, think about a factory press. It only does one thing, right? It stamps metal.
Right.
Computational capital is completely dynamic. It encompasses AI models, proprietary data lakes, raw computing resources, the APIs that connect all your different platforms.
Wow, okay.
It's the electricity required to run it all. It's the infrastructure for access control, auditing, and maintenance. It is a structural asset class that sinks into the very foundation of the entire firm.
So it doesn't just speed up the work you're already doing, it reorganizes the entire logic of the business.
Exactly. When you buy a tractor, you don't have to fundamentally redesign the logic of farming. You just plow the exact same field, but you do it faster.
Right.
Computational capital demands that you redesign the entire farm.
Hmm.
The shift is not only from humans doing work to AI doing work.
Okay.
It is a shift from people using AI as a tool to firms designing human roles around the computational capacity that is available.
And that right there creates a wild disconnect depending on where you sit in the org chart.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources talk about this difference between AI being put in versus AI being put upon. And I found this fascinating because it perfectly describes the daily friction I hear so many people complaining about.
It is an intensely asymmetric experience. Let's walk through how management views this versus the frontline worker.
Yeah, so if you are an executive sitting up in the C-suite, you experience this whole shift as AI was put in.
Right, you made an investment.
Exactly. You look at your high-level dashboards and the metrics just look phenomenal. You see incredible investment efficiency, processing volume has totally spiked, headcount costs are projected to drop next quarter.
Your time to market is suddenly way faster.
Right. So from the control plane, looking down, it looks like you just dropped a way better engine into the corporate car.
But if you were down on the front line,
Oh, man. Your lived reality is AI was put upon us.
yeah,
You didn't ask for it. But suddenly your daily procedures just change overnight. You're handed these bizarre, unexpected tasks to check the AI's work.
and skills you spent 10 years mastering are suddenly considered totally obsolete.
While completely new, weird demands are just placed on your desk every morning.
Like what, for example? What does that actually look like in practice?
Okay, I'll give you a personal example from a while back. I was working with a system that automatically generated these client summary reports.
Okay.
And management thought it was a massive sweeping success because the AI wrote the entire report in, like, 3 seconds.
Which looks great on a dashboard.
Right. But what management didn't see down on the execution plane was that the AI had this weird hallucination where it kept putting random page breaks in the middle of sentences on page 3.
Oh, no.
Every single time. So I was spending 45 minutes every single day manually combing through the output, fixing these invisible formatting errors just so we didn't look completely incompetent to our clients.
Which perfectly illustrates the friction of computational capital.
Yeah.
Think about your own Tuesday morning, To everyone listening, have you noticed the finish line of your job moving lately?
That's a great question.
Are you actually doing the core processing you were hired for? Or are you just babysitting an algorithm that management thinks is doing your job flawlessly?
And that giant pile of frontline babysitting tasks, that leads directly into our third major issue today, and it absolutely nukes one of the most popular narratives about the future of work.
You're talking about the higher level myth.
Yes. We've all heard this pitch. It goes like this. AI is going to take all the boring, repetitive drudgery. And because the machines are doing all the chores, humans will be totally freed up to focus on pure, highly creative, advanced strategic thinking.
Right, we'll all just be corporate philosophers sitting around brainstorming.
Exactly.
It's a very seductive utopian narrative.
Yeah.
The problem is, it rarely survives actual contact with reality.
No, it doesn't.
When you analyze the remainder, and by remainder I mean the actual work that is left over after computational capital absorbs all the routine processing, it is almost never pure, unadulterated creativity.
Right. It's the messy stuff.
Exactly. What concentrates on human workers are the exceptions,
Yeah.
the highly ambiguous, conflicting demands.
Yeah.
Your role basically devolves into translating rigid mathematical AI outputs into a very illogical real-world context.
It's having to explain that denied loan to the angry business owner from our first example.
Exactly. The machine made the perfect statistical choice.
Yeah.
But the human has to absorb the emotional blast radius.
Yes. The human absorbs the friction between a perfectly logical system and a totally illogical reality, which brings us to the core mechanism at play here.
This is a huge point.
Honestly, this was my absolute aha moment from the entire deep dive. It completely reframes the whole panic around automation.
How so?
Well, the conversation is almost always focused on what AI can't do. We sit around and say, well, AI can't write a truly great novel, or AI can't show real human empathy.
Right. We look for our unique capabilities.
But that's the wrong lens entirely. It's not about what AI lacks the capability to do. It's about what cannot be attributed to AI.
That distinction is so profound.
It changes everything.
It really does. If we step back and look at the sociology of a company, a machine can calculate risk with incredible pinpoint precision.
Yes.
But a machine cannot hold social justification. It cannot hold legal liability. A neural network cannot feel shame. It cannot apologize for losing a client's life savings.
Definitely not.
And it certainly cannot sit in a courtroom and explain its reasoning in a way that actually satisfies human justice.
Because it has absolutely zero skin in the game. You can't put a server rack in jail, and you can't fire an algorithm and make the client feel vindicated.
Precisely. A firm can successfully transfer the processing of the work over to the AI, but the responsibility for that work stubbornly stays with the human.
Always.
The source material actually defines this as the human becoming a boundary layer.
A boundary layer. Okay.
Your primary organizational function is now just to act as a buffer. You are there to absorb the uncertainty and the liability that the computational capital externalizes.
You are an algorithmic liability sponge.
Exactly.
The machine makes the controversial choice, but the human signs the letter on company letterhead.
Which is a huge burden.
It is. But that raises a massive problem, which leads to our final core issue today. If human work is morphing away from executing clear, defined tasks and moving toward absorbing responsibility, fixing exceptions, and smoothing over algorithmic hallucinations,
Right.
how on earth is a company measuring that? Like, is this actually recognized as formal work?
Usually it isn't. Not at all. And that creates a really dangerous illusion of efficiency.
Because to the executives looking at the dashboards on the control plane, the system looks like a massive triumph.
Everything is green.
Right. Processing time is plummeted from days down to seconds. But beneath the surface, the ship is quietly leaking.
It's leaking what the sources call invisible compensation.
Invisible compensation. Let's unpack that.
Well, the system appears highly efficient on paper, but its stability is entirely reliant on humans performing undocumented labor to bridge the gaps.
It's the 45 minutes I spent fixing those stupid page breaks.
Exactly. It's the informal checking. It's the deep psychological judgment fatigue that frontline workers experience from having to constantly monitor a system they don't fully understand.
Yeah, being terrified it's going to make a catastrophic error that they'll inevitably be blamed for.
And because these actions aren't formal processing steps,
Yeah.
because they don't fit nicely into that pristine six-step computational pathway we talked about earlier,
Right, they aren't on the flow chart.
they fall completely off the measurement radar. Management doesn't see the manual hand-holding of every single exception that falls outside the AI's training data.
Wow, so the human literally acts as an unmeasured compensation device for the machine's shortcomings.
Which means if you want to know if your company's falling into this exact trap, you have to look past the official metrics. The sources provide very specific coordinates for observation.
Okay, think of these as diagnostic questions you can ask about your own firm.
Exactly.
Let's hear them. How do you and I spot the shift?
First, look at the workflow design. Are you still at the center of your job, wielding tools to accomplish your goals?
Okay.
Or have you been placed as a checkpoint around a predetermined computational process?
Like, am I the driver, or am I just the mechanic walking alongside the track waiting for something to break?
Right. Good distinction. Second, examine the evaluation metrics. Is management actually measuring the translation load?
Do you have KPIs that track the time you spend on customer contact, fixing exceptions, and absorbing all that friction?
Or are they only measuring automation rates and raw processing speed?
Because if they only measure speed, then all that invisible compensation stays invisible. You'll look like you're constantly underperforming because you're spending half your day cleaning up the AI's messes.
But the system doesn't track mess cleanup as a valid metric.
And that is frustrating.
It is. And that leads to the third and perhaps most critical coordinate, recoverability.
Oh, this part genuinely unnerved me.
It should unnerve everyone. Recoverability asks a really simple question. If the AI system goes down completely tomorrow, say there's a massive cloud outage or the data gets totally corrupted,
Which happens.
does your team still have the skills, the cognitive pathways, and the formal authority to return to human operation? Or has that capability been fully hollowed out?
Right, like if the GPS breaks, does anyone actually remember how to read a physical map?
Probably not.
Because if the control plane has shifted entirely to the machine and the humans have been reduced to just patching code and answering angry phone calls, you've essentially de-skilled your entire workforce.
You have absolutely zero operational resilience.
Isn't it terrifying?
It ultimately comes down to what the source calls the firm's objective function. AI doesn't have an agenda of its own. It simply accelerates whatever the firm truly values at its core.
So if a firm genuinely values human contact, say in healthcare or psychological counseling or complex strategic negotiations,
Then the AI can be used to handle the routine background processing, which actually frees up humans to spend more time being human.
right, it can increase a hospital's capacity for empathy.
Yeah.
The objective function is enhanced human interaction.
But if the firm's only objective function is aggressive cost reduction and raw processing speed,
Then the humans are stripped of their core work. They are reduced to mere liability shields, just patching holes in the code and taking the blame when the system inevitably encounters a reality it wasn't trained for.
exactly.
Well, this has been a heavy, but I think incredibly necessary deep dive. Let's quickly trace the path we've walked today. We started with the realization that AI isn't just a fancy new software tool. It is computational capital that restructures the whole business.
From the ground up.
Right. As it enters the firm, it forces a radical decomposition of work. The actual processing, the execution plane, is increasingly handed to the machine. But the judgment, the translation, the social justification, and the legal liability.
That gets carved out and handed straight to the human.
Exactly.
I would really encourage you to take these observation coordinates into your next work week. Look closely at the reality of the tasks sitting on your desk.
Yeah, ask yourself who truly owns the control plane in your department.
Are you executing the core vision of your role, or are you increasingly acting as the boundary layer?
Just absorbing the system's exceptions and carrying the weight of its invisible compensation?
It completely changes how you evaluate your own career trajectory.
It really does. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on this whole idea of the boundary layer.
Let's hear it.
If the defining feature of future human employment isn't our ability to process data, but our unique legal and social ability to take the blame for computational systems, how are we going to price that?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Right. If you are an algorithmic liability sponge, shouldn't you be paid for the risk?
You would think so.
Will we see the rise of entirely new compensation models, like essentially emotional hazard pay, where your salary is directly tied to the level of algorithmic liability you are willing to absorb for the company?
Now, that is a structural shift.
It's definitely something to think about the next time an automated system makes a mistake and you are the one who has to sign your name to the apology.